I want to talk about Pat Robinson. Robertson, sorry, not Robinson. The guy just died. I should at least pronounce his name right. And I just said it. Pat Robertson, Christian televangelist. He was a prominent member of the 700 Club. He was heavily involved in religious activism, if you want to call it that, and preaching, televangelism online and on television with a gigantic audience of millions and millions and millions and millions of people. He had a heavy influence on multiple Republican presidential candidates. He was a big pusher of, the church and the state, getting a little closer together. He even ran for president one time, but he's been a big influence in the evangelical community and rallying them politically and speaking to them about the need for the religious to get involved in politics. And of course, he was a preacher as well. Now, he has died at the age of 93. He lived a long, long life, and I have a tradition of not mocking, well, maybe even not saying that necessarily, but not celebrating the deaths of others, right? I am not going to celebrate Pat Robertson's death. I feel like it would be distasteful. That's something I leave for literally the worst monsters, war criminals, genocidal dictators. I try not to do it. But I will be honest about his record. I will be honest about the type of things he said while he was a televangelist. I will not bullshit you guys about who this person was. So what I have done, now that Pat Robertson has died, is I have gathered many of his great moments, if you want to call them that, many of his fantastic moments from over the years. I got a few clips, and I've gotten a few things written down on the side here that we can read of the many, many different interesting statements that he has made over the years and interesting things he has commented on. So before we get into the video clips, I'm just going to speed run through a bunch of things he said over the years so you can get an idea of the type of influence he had on politics. This is a statement from 2005. This is after Hurricane Katrina. I was reading a book that was very interesting about what God has to say in the Old Testament about those who shed innocent blood. Have we found we are unable somehow to defend ourselves against some of the attacks that are coming against us, either by terrorists or now natural disaster? Could they be connected? To put that in layman's term, he is asking if abortion existing in the United States, the fact that a woman has the right to choose, this is 2005, Roe v. Wade was the right of the land. Many people still get abortions, even though, a lot of states are going more restrictive on that now with Roe v. Wade being gutted. He is suggesting that abortion could have led to God punishing America with Hurricane Katrina. Unbelievably disgusting. Next statement. This is from March of 1990. He refers to homosexuality as a pathology that needed to be treated. Many of those involved with Adolf Hitler were Satanists. Many of them were homosexuals. These two things seem to go together. Satanist, Nazi homosexuals. No mention of the fact that the Nazis genocided the gays. In 2011, Robertson compared Islamophobia to being anti-Nazi. I was thinking, if you oppose Muslims, what is said? Well, you're a bigot, right? Terrible bigotry. I wonder what were people who opposed the Nazis? Were they bigots? Now, here's a few of the predictions he's made over the years. At the start of 2010, the Associated Baptist Press said Robertson shared God's predictions for the year and said he wouldn't bless America because of abortion, homosexuality, and prayer. 50 million babies slaughtered. God allegedly complained to him. You can't have legislation that is anti-God. You can't foster in your midst things that I call an abomination. If you do, sooner or later, judgment is going to come. Basically, America's going to have a bad 2010 because of abortion. In 2007, Robertson said God helped him with another prediction, a bomb attack on the United States. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be nuclear, he said on the 700 Club. The Lord didn't say nuclear, but I do believe it will be something like that. The following year, Robertson explained the lack of an attack this way. Somehow, the people of God prayed, and God in his mercy spared us. And this is the interesting thing about Pat Robertson, and this is the interesting thing about a lot of doomsday preachers, a lot of people who are like Pat Robertson, is they'll make crazy predictions about bomb attacks, about wars, about the end times, about Revelation, about, being sucked into God's kingdom at the day of reckoning and the day of judgment. And they'll make these predictions, and then when they don't happen, they either A, pretend the prediction was never made in the first place, or B, try to justify it in some way, even though they consistently get these predictions wrong. If God is all-knowing and God is all-powerful and God gave you this prediction, either God was wrong or you were wrong. And God cannot be wrong because God is all-powerful. So that means Pat Robertson must be full of shit. Or God is not all-powerful and we've been lied about his stats. And he's actually massively been debuffed since the last Humanity update. Robertson told 700 Club viewers that the lawsuit filed by Texas then Attorney General Ken Paxton challenging the result of the 2020 election was a miracle. They're going to the Supreme Court to say this election was rigged and you've got to overturn it. Robertson said, pushing Trump-backed falsehoods. He also said God would intervene. God would intervene in the 2020 election and anoint Trump president. Didn't happen, and is also absolutely batshit insane. At least on one point, though, Robertson did seem to correct himself, saying 2 weeks later that Trump was living in an alternate reality. Okay, one second. We got one more we got to do, and then we're going to play some footage from some old clips that Robertson did. I'm sorry we got so many we're going through here. It's just the dude has said so much crazy stuff over the years that this is the only way I can go through a significant portion of it. And let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff here I'm leaving on the chopping block. On the 700 Club in January 2006, Robertson suggested Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon was deliberately given a stroke by God because he was trying to make peace with the Palestinians and give them land. And I quote, he was dividing God's land. And I would say, woe unto any prime minister of Israel who takes a similar course. God says, this land belongs to me. You better leave it alone. God punished the prime minister of Israel for considering giving Palestinians land and making a peace deal for him. Apparently, God is not interested in peace. He is interested in bombing raids in the Gaza Strip. And this is still not all of it. I want to show you guys. A lot of this is just me reading stuff, and I understand that, me interpreting his words back to you, even though much of this is direct quotes. Actually, no, all of this is direct quotes. Maybe that might not be that convincing about the quality of this person's character. So let's watch two clips that I've chosen. I think these are two of my favorite clips because I think they just show how disgusting he is. The first one is Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell, another religious lunatic, blaming 9/11 on homosexuals and anti-Christian organizations. 2 days, on September 13th, 2 days after 9/11. Most of this will be said by Jerry Falwell, but Pat Robertson will back him up at the end.
This is the first time that we've been attacked on our soil. First time, and by far, the worst results. And I fear, as Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of Defense, said yesterday, that this is only the beginning, and with biological warfare available to these monsters, the Husseins, the Bin Ladens, the Arafats, what we saw.
By the way, Iraq, Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11. Don't know why he's mentioning Saddam Hussein 2 days after 9/11. Just saying. Let's continue.
On Tuesday, as terrible as it is, could be minuscule if in fact God continues to lift the curtain and allow the enemies of America to give us probably what we deserve.
Well, Jerry, that's my feeling. I think we've just seen the antechamber to terror. We haven't even begun to see what they can do to the major population.
The ACLU's got to take a lot of blame for this.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I'll hear from them for this, but throwing God, or successfully, with the help of the federal court system, throwing God out of the public square, out of the schools. The abortionists have got to bear some burden for this, because God will not be mocked, and when we destroy 40 million little innocent babies, we make God mad. I really believe that the pagans and the abortionists and the feminists and the gays and the lesbians who are actively trying to make...
Okay, so here's the list of the people who caused 9/11. The abortionists, the lesbians, the gays, the ACLU, literally anybody he has a beef with, they killed the 3,000 people on 9/11. It was them. It really, if you zoomed in, it was RuPaul from RuPaul's Drag Race who was flying the plane into the Twin Towers, right? And it was Neil Patrick Harris who actually crashed the plane into the Pentagon as well.
That an alternative lifestyle, the ACLU, People for the American Way, all of them who tried to secularize America, I point the finger in their face and say, you helped this happen.
Well, I totally concur.
I totally concur that it was the gays, the abortionists, the people who got abortions on top of the doctors who gave them, the ACLU, feminists. I don't know how feminists call 9/11, but you know, there's not supposed to be large of this. Every single one of those groups, they're the ones that have the blood on their hands, not the terrorists, not the, you know, the hardcore religious fundamentalists who did this. It was all of the dissident groups that disagree with these guys' religious interpretation. It was their fault. It was, you guys just don't understand. One last video. This was his comments on Haiti. This was pretty bad because as we saw from the last event, Pat Robertson and his colleagues at the 700 Club would often use national tragedies, would often use natural disasters and horrific deaths of thousands of people, will often use them very cynically to attack their opponents, whether it's a special interest group, a minority group, whoever. And in this case, Pat Robertson had some interesting things to say about the earthquake in Haiti. He first tried to say that the earthquake in Haiti was a blessing in disguise, because then maybe they could rebuild all the buildings better than ever. Just stupid, just uninformed, before later saying something weirder and worse.
Pat, this is
and by the way, this caused huge backlash in Haiti.
This is a calamity of cataclysmic proportions. I'm sure it's the worst thing that's happened since the tsunami, and it's just it's a mess, Pat.
Well, if all those buildings are down, I understand more are fallen than are standing. It may be a blessing in disguise. There might be a massive rebuilding of that country. Is that possible?
Well, I don't know. I would think that that would be a pretty optimistic attitude.
You think?
Christy, something happened a long time ago in Haiti, and people may not want to talk about it. They were under the heel of the French. You know, Napoleon III and whatever. And they got together and swore a pact to the devil. They said, we will serve you if you'll get us free from the French. It's a true story. And so the devil said, okay, it's a deal. And they kicked the French out. You know, the Haitians revolted and got themselves free. But ever since, they have been cursed by one thing after the other, desperately poor. That island of Hispaniola is one island. It's cut down the middle. On the one side is Haiti, on the other side is the Dominican Republic. Yeah. Dominican Republic is prosperous, healthy, full of resorts, etc. Haiti is in desperate poverty. Same island. Sure. They need to have, and we need to pray for them, a great turning to God. And out of this tragedy, I'm optimistic something good may come.
Pat.
So, number one, that woman on the left there sucks. Just like literally, he could say, Pat Robertson in this moment could have said literally anything, and that woman would have been like, yeah, this earthquake was obviously caused by gay space aliens. Yes, Mr. Pat. Yes, Mr. Please let me keep my job. Yes, please. I will reaffirm everything and anything you say, Mr. Yes, Mr. Robertson. Yes. Satanists made a pact in Haiti with the devil in order to kick out the French and therefore that pact with the devil has cursed the island, and it's what's caused the earthquake. This is the type of commentary that would go into the homes of millions. I'm not saying like a few. This isn't some like random, just like alt media, like internet hosts. Millions of people listen to this guy for their opinions on everything. Religion, politics, and touching everything. He delved into geopolitics, as you can see here. He delves into, of course, issues of the home and personal relationships between men and women. You delve into everything. Millions of people, millions of mostly the elderly, listening to this guy to get their political prescriptions. Absolutely clueless and honestly disgusting to use the deaths of people on 9/11, use the deaths of people in Haiti in order to further his own agenda and go after the interest groups that he doesn't like, and just make up crazy conspiracy theories about satanic pacts that Haitian revolutionaries took that have now permanently cursed the island. Maybe if he looked into a little bit of the history of not only like foreign interventionism in Haiti, but also the history, just the history of the island, the history of the people, he could come to a different conclusion than, oh, who knows how this could have happened? Only the devil himself could have done this. Absolutely. I mean, he's just filling up his ignorance with mysticism, and he's now projecting it into the homes of millions of people. This is what he did for decade after decade after decade on the airwaves as part of the 700 Club. That is Pat Robertson's contribution to dialogue, political dialogue in the United States. This is how I will remember Pat Robertson. Okay? Again, I'm not going to do like a little tap dance about the man being dead. I'm not going to, go on Twitter and like try to ratio posts like, he's dead. I'm not going to do that because I think I don't like doing that. I think it's distasteful. I don't want to engage in that. But I will not, under any circumstances, whitewash or pretend that Pat Robertson was some saint who went out of his way to care for the misfortune and care for the downtrodden, because he was actively using national tragedies like 9/11 to try to rally people against the downtrodden, against the gay community, against feminists. I don't know if you call feminists the downtrodden, but against these interest groups had nothing to do with it. Nothing. Could you imagine if Alice, after say, I don't know, the shooting in Dallas, one of the really gigantic shooting in Dallas at the concert. Actually, no, that was Las Vegas. So maybe after the Las Vegas shooting, I said the reason why the Las Vegas shooting happened and all those people died was because God was angry that we elected Trump. That would be unbelievably gross, unbelievably disgusting, would be cynically using the deaths of those people to further your own political agenda, not out of a genuine interest of making sure that mass shootings like that don't happen again. I know some people say, oh, don't politicize a tragedy. And what they mean is don't talk about solutions that could stop us from blocking a tragedy from like this happening in the future. That's what they mean. What I mean is the cynical use of these dead bodies before the bodies are even cold to attack the interest groups that he doesn't like, cynically using them like that. Unbelievably disgusting.